Hello, welcome to the next edition of Sweet Decks. I got 5-0 slash had a solid competitive results, right? Man, so I got 12 decks to talk about today. I'm not going to break down each one and go into sideboarding as much as I have been. I just got done recording 4 videos, so I am kind of exhausted. So I'm going to finish this one up because I think this actually is awesome. We have some brand new decks to talk about that were created because of the brand new set, Ixalan. We also have some other decks that picked up some new cards and managed to put a 5-0 result. So that's what we're going to talk about today. So I'm going to try to break them down as much as I can, about 5 minutes a piece at most, just because, I mean, there's 12 lists. Each one of these decks are interesting in their own right. So if you like this kind of content, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Comment down below if you want. And let's break down the list. Let's get to 1,000 subs together. So first on my list is a new Amalia Combo deck. It plays Cord and Coco. Could be definitely the correct way to go about it. I'm going to be featuring a version next week that's not necessarily playing Cord, but we're not like all in on this plan. We have other possible ways of winning by just beat down. But this deck, we have Glissa, which is a really good magic card. For the 3-drop slot, we have Savior to protect our Amalia while we go off and they try to remove it. We just sack, protect it. We have Extraction Specialist to get back Amalia or Wild Growth Walker, depending on what we need. We have Innkeepers in here to gain life, just rock Amalia. And then we have 8 Elves to help ramp us into Coco / Cord. So we have Scout as well. It's just a, Explorer trigger option. We have Throwback in the deck for main board. It seems pretty sweet, especially off of Coco. And our mana base looks pretty solid overall. Sideboard wise, we have Damping Spheres for the Lotus Field matchup. We have Rest in Peace for Phoenix and Greasefang. Sin Collector comes in against like Control, stuff like that, where you expect an instant or sorcery that matters. We have Might in the board as a way to fight like Fable and the Mirror Breaker, stuff like that. 3 Pylons for a source of removal, since most of our creatures are relatively cheap. It's not hard to tap down our threats. Convoking is easy. Spirit as a way to protect our Amalia when it comes to removal, but do not do it on the turn that you try to combo off. You'll end up basically drawing yourself, right? Because if you have Walker and that, then Walker gets indestructible and it never ends. So not worth your time. Eidolon of the Rhetoric is good against Lotus Field, Phoenix, and Redain also helps in those similar matchups, but not against Phoenix. Redain is not good there. We have Yasharn as a way to fight, through like Sacrifice, Rakdos midrange. It also does a good job at, giving us those lands, and plus it's a boar. It's all you could really ask for. So that is the first deck list I wanted to talk about. It's one of the most speculated decks because the combo was pretty, everywhere, right? Everyone was talking about it. So this is a sweet list that features it. I think it's actually a relatively good start to having a optimized list. So if you want to start from this point, I would recommend it. Let's get into the next list. Next is a Gruul aggro deck. I think it was piloted by Tarma Girl. She's quite common in the Gruul Discord channel. Channels. So 8 Elves, pretty standard. Sentinel of the Nameless City is the new card she tried out. And outside of that, it's pretty stock. Gruul mid-range, like the sideboard, I think is pretty much the same as well. We have Embercleave if we need to get underneath something, like Lotus Field. We also have Damping Spheres. So, we have pretty good options. Cindervine's also good against Control. So we have that. Volley, we've went through this conversation before. White, blue, Greasefang, those are all good options. Hazard is good against mid-range. So it's pretty hard for them to remove it. And then we have a throwback, kind of a catch-all tutor target for the Huntman's Redemption. So that's pretty awesome to see. So that is Gruul mid-range. Got a little bit of new pieces with Sentinel of the Nameless City. But let's get into the next list. Next on my list is Esper Greasefang. It picked up Malcolm as a way to loot away stuff. So if you flash it in on turn 2, you get its attack turn 3. It has Rafine. So what's good about this deck, it does have a decent backup plan. Rafine is just a good magic card by itself, with Thalia to help make removal cost too much mana. So they're basically devoting their entire turn trying to remove a Greasefang. Rona as a way to set up, loot away your Sky Sovereign / Parhelion. And then we have our stationary cards like Sheoldred, just because, Fatal Push, Thoughtseize, you know the gist. I mean, they're pretty much everywhere in Pioneer. We have a Ray of Enfeeblement as a way to fight through opponent's Greasefang decks, plus model wipe. Spell Pierce to protect Greasefang. We have 2 Unlicensed Hearse as a way to hate on other people's graveyard hate, like Fang and Phoenix. Duress to help against control. Kaido Suzuki, I'm assuming, is for the grinding matchups, where you want to be able to draw extra cards. We have Redain, just because this is a Legends Matter deck, and that's a really good legend to have to push off rafts, high-costed removal spells, anything like that. Also good against Lotus Field. We have Urza's Ruinous Blast for aggro. Since everything in our deck is legendary, it just kind of naturally fits. We have a Dispute for control. That is Esper Greasefang for Pioneer. Let's get into the next list. Make sure you remember all these lists are in the description. So let's get into the next. Next is the deck that's been around, but has not really put up a 5-0 result, just because Azer has been bugged on MTGO, but it got fixed, and now it got a 5-0. So the brand new card is Kite Sail Larcenist. So we have Coco, Tyvar, Gwenna, which combos with Azer. And then we have a bunch of 2-drops, which help facilitate everything, with Kinnan, Elves, and Rona. And we have Cauldron, so we can, be able to have Gwenna ability underneath something like the Elf, and it just combos off, I guess, without Gwenna? No, it kind of wouldn't, right? Just because it doesn't pick up the other ability, which makes it untap. So, I guess, not sure what activated ability you're using. I guess it's Rona. I don't know. But the deck list looks pretty solid overall. We have Spell Pierces to protect our namesake pieces, along with safekeeping. Thought Seizes to help disrupt combo decks. Kazul, that's a brand new card. It helps prevent our stuff from getting countered. Oozes for graveyard hate. We have Liberator for artifact and enchantment removal. That is our Azer combo deck for Pioneer. Let's get into the next. Next, we got to talk about it because it's 5-color humans. It's one of the decks that most people have been excited for since the spoil of Cavern of Souls, because it's really something that has not existed in Pioneer until this round, just because of the fact that we need so many basically 5-color lands. So we only play 1 mana confluence, which seems kind of weird to me. I would think you'd be playing 2. Brushland, I would probably end up cutting a Brushland for another confluence, just because you kind of want to make sure you have green. And I guess that's really the only card. Yeah, so I guess that makes sense. If really you only have green for your non-creature spells, it doesn't matter, I guess. So Brushland's probably better than confluence then. Unless we have something on the board. Specialist, Brutal, Cathar. Yeah, no. There's like no non-creature spells. So, yeah, I guess Brushland should be the 4 of. Cut the confluence. Then again, I guess Brushland's not as good casting Rider. So I guess that's where it hurts. But, of course, we're playing 4 Riders, which is the only reason why I would ever consider playing humans. Because it's so sweet. We have a Bodyguard, Officer, Initiate. Common cards to find in mono white humans. We have Vanguard and Thalia's Lieutenant, because they're the best 2-drops in the format. We do not play Thalia. They're all on the board. So that's probably correct, just because they do tax out Coco. And you really only want them against decks that have heavy amounts of removal, that are like 2 MV. Also, it's good against stuff like Lotus Field, Phoenix, stuff like that. We have Larcenist as one of the newer humans. I think it's the best 3-drop removal spell is definitely better than Brutal Cathar, which we're running in the board. So, and that's pretty reasonable. Extraction Specialist comes in against Grinding match, where we expect a lot of removal from him. We have Thalia, like I said, for combo matchups. Kemble as a way to fight through combo matchups. Then we have Brina, at the top, as a way to fight through graveyard hate. Hate on graveyards, and also help protect our stuff against rafts, removal. So that is 5-color humans. Hopefully the deck keeps putting up results, so we could talk about maybe in the future if it's not meta yet again. But I think this deck is pretty fun. You should maybe try to pick it up if you like humans. To me, this is definitely, it looks better and it feels better probably than traditional mono white humans. So I'm excited that this deck is getting some, reckoning boost. And plus Catilda's kind of in the deck. I didn't really talk about her, but she's up here. Pretty sweet card to have. That is 5-color humans. Let's get into the next. Next is one of the 2 new combo decks that we have to talk about today. This one is a Contorious Cond combo deck. So it tries to ramp into Cond as soon as it can. It does have probably some really bad matchups, but it does pick up stuff like Deploy and Cosign as ways to, have something that costs 7 mana value or higher without, disrupting the curve. And it helps you interact early in the game. So what this deck wants to be doing is discarding an Outburst or an Opus to try to ramp into Cond. Once you get Cond, you spark double, and then it copies the Cond, and then eventually you just keep discovering 4, keep getting more and more and more spark doubles to increase the damage. You should be able to do like 20 plus damage in one turn. We also have a backup plan of Gear Hulk / Opus, so that actually helps. Then we have Greater, the dog, to be able to channel, ramp us, try to get us to Cond. So it tries to win by turn 3 or turn 4. That's kind of where it wants to be. So it's a reasonable deck. It's probably bad against control, but it might have some decent matchups against mid-range, against stuff like that, if they don't have Planeswalker hate to, kind of fizzle this entire thing. But that is 5-color or 3-color. Looks like 3-color Cond. Nope, there's a Plains. So it's 4-color Cond, which makes sense. You need the Plains to be able to hardcast the Cond. You don't want to just rely on treasures for that. So that is 4-color Cond. Let's get into the next. All right, so next on my list is a 4-color, I believe, Auras deck with Strom, Light Pulse, Hateful Eidolon, which I've not really seen in the latest builds of as in the latest builds of this type of deck. So it is very interesting to me, the fact that they basically cut the hexproof for 1-drop for Hateful Eidolon. So it's like I said, it's interesting. That's why I wanted to talk about it. I'm not sure how good this deck would be. It does have Thoughtseize to remove things that could potentially be problematic for the deck. It has Deadweight in the board for removal. It has some Containment Priest for hate against stuff like Creativity, which I don't think is a deck. Also, I guess is more for the Discover brand new deck that we just talked about with Cond, and we're going to talk about it in the future. We have a Hushbringer to stop ETB triggers like the Discover cards. We have Deep Cavern Bat for a little bit more hand hate. We have Verse to get basically mono green. Anything that's monocolored. Atomic is a pretty good sideboard card. Rest in Peace, only one of for for the Phoenix / Fang matchup. But I thought this deck was interesting that it pivoted from being primarily Selesnya into Orzhov, just because I'm assuming because of the Thoughtseize. And I guess Hateful Eidolon is interesting. If one of your creatures dies that has enchantments on it, you do get some value. I'm curious to see how this deck actually performs. Military Discipline. Okay, and then it has basically 1 red card and 1 green card. 1 for fighting, 1 for haste. So no blue. in the deck, which has also been very interesting since blue has been a heavily favored color, I think, as the third primary for Orzhov or Bogles. If you're excited, all these lists are in the description. Let's get into the next list. So next is the brand new combo deck that has been shaking up the format. I think people, it got like a 4-1, I believe, with Doomwake. This got a 5-0. So the combo itself, as we're trying to ramp into Appraiser, Appraiser, we could either hit Evolution or Mimic, and then either copy, get another Discover 3, or sacrifice Appraiser to get Carnage Tyrant or Trumpeting Carnosaur. And at the very end, you try to use your one of your last evolutions to sacrifice a 4-drop to get Doomscar Titan to give everything haste. Galta is a very interesting include in the deck. I'm not sure how good Galta itself is in this deck. I guess you can sacrifice the Trumpeting Carnosaur to get Galta, but is that worth it? I don't know. Of course, it plays Cosine / Bedeck Bedevil. Bedeck is a decent removal spell for small creatures. We have Opus, Masterpiece, Outburst as ways to get treasure tokens to help us ramp and hopefully get a turn 3 win. So this deck is quite explosive. Sideboard, we have Reduce to Rubble. It's our choice of a counter spell. And plus, I mean, the second half, the aftermath part, isn't bad, right? So it's not embarrassing in casting that half. The crab is honestly, I think, is worse, which he runs 2 copies of the crab in this board. We have Cosine as a way to bounce non-land permanents. So that could help against maybe enchantments or hate, like what we just talked about, that prevents ETB triggers. Then we have 4 Chandras for the control matchup. Also, okay, Wrath against small creatures. Then we have Thought Distortion for control. So we can maybe get to it and make them discard all of their Wraths and interaction. So, and we have 2 more on the board to help against those matchups too. Against those matchups, I don't think you would use your treasure to try to combo off. Like I said, you would probably end up trying to do it by Thought Distortion. And then by that point, you should have 4 mana to start the combo. I'm not really sold that having 4 evolutions is correct. It seems very vulnerable. But in the list that I'm going to try soon, I'm going to try it with 2 copies and up my other 3-drop copy effects. So it's a little bit more in on the combo than this version. This version has a lot more ramp. So that is the brand new combo Discover combo deck for Pioneer. It usually wins by turn 4. So let's get into the next list. Boros Koke. This deck has been around for a while. It's basically tier 2 upper. The only thing noticeable is it got Get Lost in the board. It's playing Skrelv Hive. And sideboard, I'm assuming this is against like mid-range, stuff like that. We expect sweepers. Goblin Rabble Master also makes tokens. It's basically a 1 threat that kind of just goes wide. We have a Devil for the elves. We have Volley for Fang. So we can basically keep committing to the board and interacting with the problematic cards like Fang. Also good Adeline. We have Get Lost for Shieldred. And the brand new card main board is Warden of the Inner Sky. It does work quite well in the deck overall, since it taps artifacts, which you make with blood tokens, investigates. Also, a lot of your stuff makes multiple tokens. Plus, this version is playing 2 landings. It's really good against heavy removal / sweepers. So keep that in mind. This is a pretty reasonable list. This deck keeps getting better. So I wouldn't be surprised if this deck eventually becomes tier 1. Just because it gets enough redundancy and better options. Because if they ever print something like reinforcements at 1 mana or something like that, like a better Epicure, whatever, like this deck is going to just keep getting better. So, including better sideboard cards too. So, that is Boros Koke for Pioneer. Let's get into the next list. Next is Simic Murol. It's a brand new list from Claudio. He does primarily a lot of Niftalite decks, but he tried Merfolk. Now we have some redundancy at the 1-drop slot. We have 8 1-drops for the deck. We have Adept, which is one of the better tempo slash in Merfolk Trickster too, and Hexcatcher. So those are really good tempo related Merfolk. Of course, we play Coco. It gets us a Kamuna, also Sentinel in the Nameless Sky, and plus our Lord and other stuff like that. Now keep in mind, the Kamuna works great with Deep Root Pilgrimage. Basically, we tap down any sort of creatures that can't really get through for damage or effective good combat, like Adepts. We basically tap them all down with Kamuna, make 1/1s. So what's nice about this part, right, is if our opponent attacks out, it makes attacking bad. Just because they attack out, we use Kamuna, tap down our scouts, speakers, hex catchers, and make a bunch of 1/1/1/1/1s. We use those to block, untap, smash. So it does a decent job at that. And I think I had it as the #1 card from the set, for at least for Pioneer purposes, and that is Tidebender, Binder. I think it's relatively good. A Stifle that turns off Karn, turns off a lot of the problematic cards. So I really like it in the shell. Merfolk really got a huge bonus there. Now, since this is Simic, we get Shaper Sanctuary to help us against heavy removal decks like Rakdos Midrange. We have Hearse as a way to fight through graveyard strategies like Fang and also Phoenix. Stroke is good against green. We have another couple Tide Binders on the side to bring in also against green, because Karn is really their main purpose, or main good win con. So we have Cupola to help protect our stuff against heavy removal decks. We have Sage, comes in for artifact and enchantment removal. It's good off of a Coco. Disputes for the blue control matchups. Then we have Heroic Intervention as a way to protect our threats, give them indestructible and hexproof. Now keep in mind, like, I'm assuming they're not playing that many disputes, just due to the pure nature that Cavern of Souls kind of already protects your stuff, but having the disputes to help protect your collected company against blue does make a difference. So I think that's primarily what it's for. Also, I mean, you could counter, of course, Ledger Shredder, stuff like that, where if that's their only threat, but I think you go wide enough and have a lot of redraws here to make this deck actually just kind of crush through most blue-based strategies that are quote-unquote creature-oriented. That is Simic Merfolk for Pioneer. We got 2 more deck lists to cover, and let's get into it. Next on my list is 3-color Jeskai Ascendancy. Now, this deck got 2 new cards, the Ever-Flowing Well. So ETBs comes down, mills you 2. So it is very interesting that they decided to use that as their card of choice. I'm assuming it's because when it flips the other side, you could have your things become more Jeskai's Ascendancies, or, you know, more creature lands, whatever. So you could turn your more permanents into quote-unquote threats, so you can kind of combo off. The other new card I picked up is Get Lost in the Board. Get Lost allows you to answer Shieldred, which is really actually bad for this deck because it does draw a lot of cards. So that was a nice include for this deck. Then we have Bankbusters for the grinding matchups. We have Volley, you know, with S4. We have Mentor, a couple copies, so we have additional threats we could bring in. We would make a lot of prowess threats, and basically double prowess every single time with Jeskai's Ascendancy. We have a Pithing Needle. It's a good non-creature spell to have a sideboard in, right? So we could keep sproccing Ascendancy while stopping our opponent from doing what they want to do. We have 2 Disputes to help protect our Ascendancy, to allow it to come down. We can't have it getting countered. We have 2 Radiant Flames for sweepers, and that is Jeskai Ascendancy. We have, you know, Desk, Hole. We have the Helix / Rona combo in this deck. And then we have ways to fill the yard up with Emery / Archaeologist. And then, of course, we have Crypt. Also can combo off with Emery, so there's that too, and it's a free spell, so that's kind of what you really care about. And of course, there should be Mox Ambers. Yes, they're just weird. They are old bordered. So that is, like I said, Jessica's Ascendancy. We got one more deck to cover. And hopefully you guys enjoyed this episode. If you did, make sure you sub, hit that like button, and let me know down in the comment section which one of these decks interests you the most. And let's get into the last list. So last on my list is Boros Humans. There's a lot of legendaries. Actually, it's kind of Boros Legends. So I guess there's that. Yeah, Plaza is kind of a dual land. Karizev. We have Zergo. We have Thalia, Adeline. The new Entai, which really kind of works well with the new Gnome Creator. So like those are the brand new cards. Is the Entai and the Gnome Creator. And Get Lost. So those 3 cards, I guess, allowed this deck to be formed. We don't really have any new cards in the board, but again, this is Boros Legends. So, like, we do have a decent shot, I think, of protecting our threats, or at least our important pieces. And this new Gnome Creator is a really good Magic card. Not even going to lie. So, for some reason, though, we are playing 4 Ganju. I think that's kind of too excessive. And we're also playing 4 Sakasans. So, to me, that seems a little bit extreme. I probably wouldn't play more than 2 in a given deck. I guess they must have reasons for it. To me, having more Battlefield Forges makes more sense. But what are you going to do? So, sideboard-wise, we have 2 portable holes for the aggro matchups. We have melee, kind of can answer anything for 4 damage. But you do get punished if it's non-red. So keep that in mind. We have volley. Of course, you know the drill. Rest in peace, Fang, Phoenix. Then we have wedding announcement as a way to fight through grinding matchups where our threats do get removed or sweeped. We have Tomic. We have Redain, commonly used, like I said, for Lotus Field, Rafts, stuff like that. Then our choice of sweeper is Ruinous Blast at the bottom because it doesn't exile anything of ours, and it exiles everything of theirs. So it's decent against mono green, right? Because you exile Kiora, you exile their Karn, you exile all their creatures. You get devotion basically to 0. So it's really actually powerful, given if you are facing mono green. But I believe mono green is kind of on the down cups. So like it's kind of not really much, it's not as prominent right now. So that is Boros Humans Legends. I guess it's not technically humans exactly, quote unquote, because there's like Phyrexians, and I believe Zergo is not a human. I think it's an orc or something like that. So yeah, if you have any comments or suggestions about any of these lists, what would you want me to see? Which ones would you want to see me play? Let me know down in the comment section. I will we'll prioritize the ones that you guys want to see. We will play through leagues, stuff like that. Other than that, hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe before you head out that door. And until next time, hopefully you guys have a great rest of your day. Talk to you soon.